Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first webinar of the 2023-24 school year by the Chess in Education Committee. I'm recording this webinar so that you can go back and look at the recording, or for those who were not able to attend this evening, we'll send a link to the recording. I'd like to ask everyone to submit questions in the chat room, and at the end, we will open up questions and for our guests. And our guest presenters this evening, first is Chess and Education Committee member and Scholastic Manager for the St. Louis Chess Club, Richard Pointer. We also have Dr. Matthew Pepper, Education Researcher at Basis Policy Research, and Dr. Brian Kisida from the University of Missouri. And Richard, I'm going to hand things over to you to get started.
Okay, thank you very much, Renee. Let me get my screens shared. Everything. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about the Chess in Schools initiative here at the St. Louis Chess Club and how we have built that over the last 15 years. We're going to answer a couple questions that are pretty important for us. How did we start to professionalize our chess instructors? How did we build partnerships in the community? How did we measure the impact of chess on our students? And then how did all those pieces fit together and kind of what order did that happen? I'm going to show you a quick video, kind of a promo video for the club. If you don't know what's happening in St. Louis, this gives you a kind of a taste of what we do. Pretty exciting. So let's get started.
That was an amazing piece of calculation that easily dominated his rivals, winning game after game. The opposition has never been as heated, as fierce. Most elite chess tournaments in the world.
And so basically, what we do here at the club in some form or fashion. We have the St. Louis Chess Club, the World Chess Hall of Fame, world-class tournaments like the Singfield Cup and Rapid and Blitz, and we're part of the Grand Chess Tour. We do U.S. championships, women's championship, senior championship, we do norms and classical tournaments, and we do tournament broadcasts and streams. That's kind of what our public image is across the United States and around the world. But we're also doing a lot more in schools here in St. Louis, and we want to share what that looks like and how we've built that program, because I think it's kind of exciting to learn about how the lessons we've learned and how those things can help you. So what we also should be known for is a standardized chess curriculum that we've built out over the last 10 years, professionalized chess instructors who work inside the school day in many schools across the St. Louis region, up to 200 hours per week. We also have a number of community outreach events and community partnerships that help us to reach as many students as we possibly can, upwards of 5,000 students per year. And we've have about 85,000 total students who have learned chess through some form or fashion from the St. Louis Chess Club. And then finally, because of those partnerships, we've been able to do some really interesting research programs. And we're going to talk about those results for the first time publicly tonight, later on. So how did it all start? 2008, Dr. Jeannie Rex and Rex Singfield, they came back to St. Louis after retiring. They had lived in Chicago and California, but Rex was from St. Louis, so he wanted to retire here and then he just wanted to start a chess club and see what that could bring to St. Louis. It's here in the central West End, so it's centrally located within the St. Louis region, which is actually quite important for our ability to kind of put chess in a number of school districts. We're able to put instructors basically throughout the region. We have this wonderful facility. Started out as a 6,000 square foot chess classrooms and tournament space. We've hosted beginner tournaments all the way up to state championships, plus all those big tournaments you already know about, like Singfield Cup. It was actually started with a core group of St. Louis natives. That also meant that they weren't necessarily professional in their chess knowledge. They had some chess knowledge, but they had to learn a lot of things. And the challenge was going to be big because we were a 501c3 nonprofit with a pretty big mission. And that mission had a couple core features. We wanted to inspire and educate through chess. We wanted to offer comprehensive chess instruction and then show its educational merits. We wanted to build community partnerships, both locally and nationally. And then we wanted to demonstrate what chess could offer for education and students. And we wanted to do that rigorously. So that's the research portion. Okay, so early challenges for anybody starting a chess organization, and we found this out too, is that you really have a small pool of chess instructors. And that's because of the limitations of an after-school model that most chess programming kind of fits into, at least here in the United States. You're limited to the number of hours during the day you can teach, the time of year you can teach, and kind of the students that are even able to engage you in that. Another thing that we had to basically iron out was what kind of instruction were we going to offer? Were we just going to use what was on offer from other authors? Or were we going to build out our own resources so that our instructors gave the St. Louis Chess Club style of instruction? And then we had to be able to train new instructors. We had to build out that pool because we wanted to expand beyond just after school. We wanted to do in-school programming. And to do that, we had to build partnerships with districts and schools and community organizations and donors to figure out how to do it beyond that 3 to 5 o'clock window, and to do it for students who might not have been able to get chess prior to that. So first, I'm going to talk about how did we professionalize and standardize our instructors. So we started by building out standards of instruction. So Grandmaster Maurice Ashley, big friend of the club for a long time, actually a connection to St. Louis prior to the club's founding. He came in and helped lead a seminar where we built out our standards for 12 levels of instruction. And each one of those levels is based for a semester's length of instruction. They're competency-based, meaning that they're concrete goals that students are going to learn for each level. So at the end, you know whether or not they achieve their goals. We had to fit different models, which meant that we needed to be able to do after-school students that had already been exposed to chess, and then in-school students, maybe that had never been taught chess at all. And basically our materials had to cover all of that. So we developed that with Grandmaster Ashley. Then we started going about writing those lessons. So they had to be flexible, but they had to be standardized. That let our teachers meet the needs of their students, and also gave them a myriad of activities to choose from depending on what their students needed. If they needed more advanced instruction, they had that available to them in the same lessons that they could use for beginners. And then finally, we had to be able to train our instructors. So we've developed a teacher training program for our instructors that puts them through a 3-day seminar that has them engage with the material that we've written, has them provide mock lessons to our chess club instructors to judge whether or not they need to improve or what they need to improve. It teaches them how to write lesson plans, and then also it gives them an opportunity to shadow our current instructor base to see how those lessons go and what they need to improve before they have their own classrooms. So that was critically important. And what we were trying to do was meet the needs of a greatly expanded number of classrooms. And so I'll just kind of go quickly through what our curriculum looks like. Here's what our standards look like for levels 1 through 3. They're a little small on the screen, but just quickly basically tell you what they're able to do. So the idea is that students are going to learn the material quickly. They're going to learn it in sequential but increasingly complex ways. It gives instructors a roadmap of what they're going to learn in a semester. It gives our partners and parents expectations about what they're going to learn. So up front, they know this is the chess program that they're going to receive. It gives us a framework to measure student achievement. And then finally, it standardizes what's taught, but not how it's taught. So still, we leave that up to our instructors to try to match the lessons to what their students' needs are. Okay, so what does a lesson look like? All of our lessons follow a similar format. It has classroom expectations to start. It gives you a number of activities to start the session. It gives you a lesson. It gives you vocabulary and standards you're going to cover. And then it gives you a number of activities and exercises that you can use to reinforce those ideas that you give in your lesson. So I'll continue with what our activities look like. And these are just 3 examples for this early on lesson. This is level 1.2. You can see these are very simple activities, but they're going to reinforce those same concepts that the lesson does. So it's important that our students are able to engage that material. And if you look, there's 3 activities. There's no way you can do 3 activities in one lesson. So the reason we have that is that maybe one activity works better for a class than the other. And so our instructors get to choose and have a lot of different ways to reinforce the material. And then finally, we have worksheets. These worksheets basically are dual use. You can either give it directly to a student where they're able to work through and kind of reinforce those lessons, or they're just demo board activities that can be used for the whole classroom. So using, for the example, in this one, you could use stars on a demo board to show ranks, files, etc. So we have up to 5 levels of these. So that's upwards of 50 lessons. And that covers currently around 2.5 years of instruction. We had to expand our reach. So once we built out this standards and curriculum, we wanted to move beyond what that after-school chess club looked like. That was a 1-hour class once per week for a semester. It's just not enough contact time for students inside of a school. So the types of students that were already involved, those would be our after-school students. Parental groups are organizing those often. They're connected to schools, but not necessarily with the administration. And then they're funded by families for their children. So what does an in-school model look like? It's classes inside the school day. It could be multiple sessions per week, full year of instruction. It's students who generally can't get these kinds of chess classes after school for other reasons, maybe transportation or funding issues. Also, in-school can be funded by donors, and then it's in direct partnership with those school districts. So we want to make a long-lasting relationship so that we're able to make sure that we get as much chess to as many students as possible. Okay, I'll just give you some photographs of maybe what those look like. So this is an in-school chess class, St. Louis Public School at Gateway. They've been a great partner with us. Here's just a library scene of kids playing chess after school, or in school in this case. We also wanted to make sure that we engaged students before they got into a chess class, and we did that through fairs, festivals, and back to school nights. Those are super important for getting kids excited about chess, and then also informing both administrators, teachers, parents that this is an available opportunity to them, so that everybody gets excited and we can get those programs started. Another thing we do is scholastic tournaments. That was to show, to give opportunities for students to engage chess beyond the classroom and show those skills that they've learned in the classroom. So I'll show you some photos of those kind of activities coming up. Here's Maurice giving a school assembly event to Normandy High School kids. And here, this would be be before we'd even be in the classes giving chess lessons. It's just to get students excited about what chess can offer to them. Maurice has a very good seminar he can give to students about what chess did for his life, and that can be really inspiring for students. Like if they're getting involved into chess, what are the opportunities and benefits of doing so? This is a really cool thing we do every year. During the US Championships, on the rest day, the competitors will go to our community schools and do simuls or some sort of lesson with students who are already engaged in chess. And so you can see it's Maurice and it's also Fabiano Caruana, just talking to kids about chess and life. And that's a yearly event we do. It's really exciting. We just did that last Monday, again this year. Then our chess tournaments, like many of you are familiar with, you know, they're super important for students to kind of get more involved in chess culture. We do these kinds of tournaments both monthly basis for the whole region, and then also by district. So each district can get their own district championship tournament, and that's been a really big success, especially with St. Louis Public Schools. We have many schools participate in that event. So finally, how do we keep engaged with the community? And one of those important steps was to have summer camps. They're week-long, full-day classes. Ours are led by grandmasters along with our club instructors. And here's the key. So a lot of summer camps are just paid for by their parents, and it's just like any kind of enrichment activity. But we were able to partner with our districts to offer the same type of camps for those districts at zero cost to their students. So we have been doing that with Ferguson Florissant School District and Jennings School District now for 5 years. It's really exciting to get kids introduced to chess during the summer, and then they come back for the school year, and then we're giving them chess classes during the school year. And I'll just show you some photos of what those might look like. Here's Varuzhan Akobian, Grandmaster here in St. Louis. This is just one classroom. Right now we're doing about 12 weeks worth of summer camps per summer, and each summer camp might have 5 of these different classrooms. So we're having up to 100 kids per camp right now doing chess. Okay, so the last piece is really building the partnerships with different community organizations. So that can be parental organizations like PTOs or PTAs, schools or administrators. It's always important to have in each school a champion for your program. Even if they're not somebody who's teaching the chess, they are the ones that bring you into the building. Community organizations, here in St. Louis, there's something called Better Family Life. They do wraparound services for schools, and they often are funded by federal grants. We partner with them to put chess into their programming. One of the biggest and most critical ones we've been able to build is school districts and superintendents. That's let us give chess to whole districts. Every school in a district will have chess programming either in school or after school. We try very hard to make sure it's in school so that all the students have the opportunity to get it. We've also had a number of big corporations that have helped us fund those programs. Monsanto, Bayer, Emerson, Ascension, those are the big partners for us. And then on governmental programs like some grant programs that the state of Missouri offers, but same idea for any other state. And then what does the funding look like? And I think this is a big question for a lot of people. How do you do all this? There's different ways, and it's piecemeal. It's not just one method. For example, we have a national master here in St. Louis for a long time who's come in during the holidays, and he puts down enough money to support one school for a semester of chess. And that's really important to know that it's easy to do. It can be done just with, a donation. Schools and parental donors, those are also super important for us. We do still do a lot of after-school chess programming. The corporate grants have been instrumental in doing whole district wide chess programming like Ferguson, Florissant. The community grants that I talked about, 21st century grants from the federal government, those are great opportunities to get engaged in districts and schools to give chess to students who might not be have the chance. And then we also do just the normal kind of fundraising, so galas, golf tournaments. You could also do trivia nights. Those are ways to fund those kind of programs, and they're often engaging people that might not think that they could help out in any way. Okay. So I'm going to show you what our partners, why they decided to say yes to chess in the school day. And I think their answers are pretty powerful, and something that maybe you could use to show your partners like why other people chose to do it and why they could choose to do it as well. So.
Yes, we are with Anthony Ruby, a network superintendent for St. Louis schools. And first of all, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me.
You've been responsible for implementing chess in 33 schools, I believe 11 of them during the school day. Why chess? Why do you feel that is that important?
It's an amazing opportunity for our kids to experience more than the normal curriculum. It gives them a lot of this access to skills and strategy that you wouldn't see in a normal academic program, and I'm especially passionate about bringing it in during the school day. So this is for many of my students across the 12 elementary schools that I supervise, this is a normal part of their week. 30, 40 minutes, an hour even of chess as a regular academic class.
Is it every day or once a week?
For most students, it's once a week. For a few, it might be every day.
What are some of the results that you're seeing now that you've implemented the program?
We're a lot more active engagement in the traditional academic classes. So we see students building more of a focus and a stamina. You see students that are becoming more problem solvers than reactors, which is really exciting to see in St. Louis public schools. And kids are just getting passionate about a hobby, something that they can learn from, but also really enjoy.
How has the response been, the reception been from teachers, administrators, principals, as you bring in chess into the schools?
For some, it's a bit of a hesitation at first, but within days, sometimes weeks, definitely by now at this point in the year, everyone's excited by it. They love it. They love having kids excited. They like seeing what's possible. And I think we've really shown that in the schools that we have established now, and that's why we're hoping to expand to even more next year.
I decided to bring the chess club into the school when I got the offer because we had a chess club that had started here in a small format, and I wanted to be able to offer that to more students.
Students are really excited to bring chess into our schools and to give our students an opportunity to experience chess and to learn the kinds of skills I think that will give them what they need to be lifelong learners.
Things that it brings to a student just intellectually in playing chess and learning how to think ahead and putting forethought into what you're doing is just a great opportunity for any student. Whenever the kids are talking about chess, their emotions are excited, happy, confident. It makes them feel really good because they've learned a new skill.
For every move is a counter move. For every reaction is a counter reaction. You have to think, what's come next after I move this piece?
They feel brilliant about it, which is so awesome to me because when you feel smarter, you just carry yourself just a little different and you exude a confidence, which is awesome. So to see that in the kids is fantastic.
It's amazing. I love it.
It's inspiring to me because I identify with many of the students in terms of the experiences they're having and they have had and the experiences I've had. You get an edge on learning and how to become a productive citizen.
Now it's an element that the community feels connection to the school with. And Walnut Grove students are bringing it out to their community through their parents and family and friends. It's like this really positive connection between the home and the school.
Chess is a small step in making them become a better citizen. It forces them to make a plan. You have to plan your next move so they can actually take their skill into life. I think that will help them a lot.
It's going to build confidence, it's going to build social skills, it's going to build academics, it's going to allow students to be more amazing than they already are and really just expand their horizons.
Okay. So I'm going to introduce Dr. Kisida and Dr. Pepper about our chess research program and why it was important that we were inside the school day and we standardized our instruction so that we could research what were the impacts of chess and how that has really played out in our classrooms. So I'm going to turn it over to them and let them introduce our chess research.
Thank you, Richard. Am I coming through okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yes, Matthew Pepper. I'm with Basis Policy Research, a K-12 research organization out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. My colleague, Dr. Brian Kisida, a professor at the University of Missouri. And we've been blessed to partner with the St. Louis Chess Club for 7 years now in slowly growing a research agenda. And the St. Louis Chess Club website has a research page that describes a lot of our previous work and is being updated with our current work. So, for example, we did a meta-analysis where you put a bunch of studies together to determine whether or not there's an impact of scholastics of in-school chess on student academic achievement. We also did some basic pre-post surveys asking students how much what they thought of chess at the end of chess classes. But what we're excited to talk to you about today is something a little bit more rigorous that we've been, it was supposed to be a 3-year study, and COVID threw a wrench into that, so it became a 4-year study. But it is something that has allowed us to look more rigorously at some of the impacts that you just heard described on that video. So it's superintendents can say, this is what we're seeing anecdotally, but it's a different approach to be able to say we have taken an academic view and can say with rigor that we're seeing these impacts. So Richard, do you want to go to the next slide, please? This is Castle. If any of you know Tony Rich, this is his title. He's very proud of it, from the St. Louis Chess Club. Chess Attainment in St. Louis and Evaluation. And go ahead, Richard. So I'll unpack this statement in the next slide, but it's a deferred treatment, random assignment, multi-year study. And what we looked at is the impact of in-school chess on student academic and non-academic outcomes. So multi-year, it was 1920 to 22-23. We operated in 6 different schools in 2 St. Louis area school districts, and it was in grades 3 through 8. And that was intentional. You all that have taught chess know that the younger grades are a little bit more tricky in terms of engagement and focus. And then in high school, you sort of have that selection issue where there are folks that have selected in and out of chess. And specifically, these are 3 research questions that we set out to answer. Does chess instruction, what impact does it have on attendance, discipline, motivation, and other survey measures? And then the impact on student achievement scores, specifically on mathematics and English language arts. And then the third research question, which we will be doing over the next 5 years, we'll be following this group of folks that participate in the study to look at longer term outcomes, high school graduation, for example. Go ahead, Richard. So this is this is getting a little bit into the weeds, but I think it's important you understand just to discuss a little bit about the design, the study design. So think about a medical model. If a pharmaceutical company has a new medicine and they want to test its impact after they went through all the trials with animals, what do they do with humans? They do what's called an RCT, a randomized controlled trial. You enroll a whole bunch of people and you flip a coin, and half the folks get the medicine and half the folks don't. And then you see if there's any differences between those 2 groups. And if there's any difference because of that flip of the coin, if you have large enough groups, then that's you can ascribe that difference to the impact of the medicine. So that's what we did here. We did 2 different models. In the elementary model, in grades 3 through 5, we randomized classrooms. So that's on the left-hand side, and instead of flipping the medicine was chess instruction. And deferred treatment, when we say deferred treatment, it means that everybody gets chess, but they just get it at different times. So the first semester, a classroom was randomized to either get it first semester or second semester. That's important in a research environment. You don't want to go to a principal and say, we only want to give chess to half your kids, right? You want to say, we're going to give chess to all your kids just at different times. And so the study was in that first semester. The control kids were kids that got it the second semester. And the treatment kids were kids that got it the first semester. So what we did is we followed their academic outcomes and gave them surveys at the beginning and end of that semester. So again, that was elementary school kids. We randomized classrooms, and really importantly, they got it once a week for a semester. So it was 10 to 13 times once a week for a semester at that elementary model. The more rigorous one, we were at at the junior high level, grades 7 and 8, and we were able to work in quarters, in the space of the quarters, instead of semesters. So everybody, kids raised their hand and said, I want to take chess. And so then we flipped a coin and they were assigned to either the first or the second quarter. And importantly, they got chess every day. So for the first quarter, kids that got chess, they would go, instead of going to PE, they do PE in the second quarter. And in the first quarter, all they got was chess every day for an hour. So again, two different threads in this experiment. One a classroom level randomization at the elementary level, that was once a week, and then a student level randomization that was every day for a quarter. So I'll turn it over now to my colleague, Dr. Kisida. He'll tell you about the measures that we used.
Can you advance the slide, please, Richard? Thanks, Matthew. So one of the things that we did, that we established with these partnerships, is we established data sharing agreements with the 2 school districts that we were working with. And they provided us administrative data on the first 4 outcomes that you see here. So we had math achievement based off of their benchmark assessments, English language arts achievement, and then what we would call non-cognitive outcomes or behavioral outcomes. And this was student attendance percentages from administrative data, and the number of disciplinary infractions that students had been receiving. As far as I know, most of the studies that have been conducted out there that we've looked at and seen in the literature review have looked at test scores. I don't recall any that have been able to look at attendance and disciplinary outcomes. And we also wanted to take a little bit step further into the research base and look at what we might call other behavioral type of outcomes, or things that fall into the category of social emotional development, things that schools have been increasingly interested in learning how to improve. There's a number of related research studies out there that have found that things like social emotional development outcomes do lead to better graduation rates, lower incidence rates of discipline, increased employment in later life. So these seem to be important outcomes in addition to test scores. And we had a little bit of evidence that there might be something to look at with these types of measures. One is from the sort of testimonials that you saw in the videos that Richard shared, where both teachers and students would talk about the increases in confidence that they felt, or the increases in sort of grit and determination that the students were demonstrating. And another thing is, we had been surveying the students with sort of simple pre-post surveys with the chess club for a number of years. And we would ask the students questions related to whether or not chess made them feel like they could challenge themselves more and accomplish difficult tasks and other measures like that. And overwhelmingly, we would get numbers in the 80 to 90 percentile of students agreeing with those types of statements. So we thought there might be something to this social emotional development measurement. Those items, the research team measured ourselves. So we would visit each chess class and the control group students at the beginning of the chess instructional period, and then again at the end of the chess instructional period, and give them these surveys that included these types of items. The next slide, we have some examples. So here's a couple of examples. These are just some selected items. So our self-management measures were students answering Likert-based questions on whether or not they come to class prepared, follow directions, pay attention when there are distractions. Items that measured self-efficacy were whether or not they felt they could do well in school, do well on their tests, get good grades. School engagement was items about just enjoying school, feeling successful, being happy there. A lot of our preliminary data had suggested that was an important component. And then persistence and grit. So items like even if something is hard, I can learn it, or whether or not they could reach the goals their teacher sets. So those are the survey items that we collected. And remember, both the treatment group and the control group are getting the same measures. They're being tested under similar conditions, but through randomization, some of them were some of them did not get chess, and they served as a control group temporarily. These are our findings at the end of the study. So the big, there's a few main takeaways here. First, in our elementary model, those horizontal arrows, they mean that we didn't find anything. I think this is maybe not surprising. If you remember the way Matthew described it, the students in elementary schools were getting chess 1 day a week for about a semester. And often, you know, with a couple of, testing days and holidays, that may have meant somewhere between 12 and 13 total chess lessons. So if we'd seen some movement there, we might have even been skeptical, because I think that that's asking a lot for any intervention to actually move the needle and show up in these types of things that we could measure. In our junior high model, recall, students are receiving chess every day for either a quarter or a semester. So that's somewhere between, we might say somewhere between 50 and 80 chess lessons total. So a much higher dosage in the junior high. And for the full sample, so that middle column there is the full sample. We don't find anything for the full sample except a statistically significant increase in students' sense of self-efficacy, which we find encouraging, because this is the theory, one of the theories that we went in with, and we find some strong evidence in that domain. A lot of the other domains trend positive, but this was also actually one of the areas where we had a much smaller sample size, because we're only working with one junior high at the time. But then we also looked at subgroups. And when we look in particular at the male students in the junior high school, we see statistically increases in standardized achievement and math scores, reductions in disciplinary fractions. So that's downward arrow there is actually a good thing. Students in the treatment group, students who received the chess, had fewer disciplinary fractions. And then also that same benefit that we saw, that same positive increase in self-efficacy that we saw for the full sample, was even stronger for males in the treatment group at the junior highs for students who were getting chess every day. So these are actually the preliminary findings. This is the first time we've shown these publicly, and we're incredibly excited about it. We're still continuing to do research. We're looking at new opportunities in St. Louis. One thing that we're going to do is we're going to do our best to follow this study sample, particularly that junior high sample, through high school, and to look at high school graduation rates and post-secondary outcomes. And we started a number of partnerships with other schools to do other interesting research avenues, including maybe some research that is going to be based on chess that more specifically integrates math instructional techniques, which is one of the things that Richard and his team are developing. Next slide. This brings us to a bit of an advertisement. I think click one more time. We'd like for all of you to meet us in St. Louis and tell your friends. I don't see the text there, Richard. Is there a way to bring that up? Or there it is. So one of the things that we have long felt in the chess research world and in the world of educational chess is that there's not there's a sort of a lot of different rogue actors here in the United States. as opposed to some of the things that happen in other countries. So regularly, annually, there's a chess conference in London, the London Chess Conference. It's possible some of you have heard about this or attended. We've been able to attend this a few times and present research, but we've always felt that this was something that was really missing in the American context. So we're working with the Kasparov Foundation and the United States Chess Federation to put on a conference in St. Louis. What we're calling this is Chess in St. Louis, the Educational and Social Impacts of Chess. The dates are going to be October 24th through 26th, 2024 at the St. Louis Chess Club, and actually a very nice nearby hotel that the club partners with quite a bit. So this will actually be at the tail end of the United States Chess Championship. So if you, the conference is on a Friday, Saturday, the welcoming will be on Thursday, which will be the day of the closing ceremonies of the United States Chess Championship, which will be an add-on for conference attendees. The goal of the conference, broadly speaking, is to bring together both practitioners and researchers and just individuals who are interested in the game of chess to participate, share their experiences, trying to look at research and interventions across the spectrum of where chess has an impact in society. This can be chess in education. This can be chess with prison populations, chess with populations with disabilities. We also want to look at different forms of instructional and clearly a good opportunity to network with other people who are interested in chess and meet fun and exciting people and just have a good time. So we're really excited. We're putting together the program because you're in this group. I know you're going to get an email and information about it, and we hope that you'll distribute that and disseminate that to your colleagues and friends, and hope that if you have something that you think might be that you would like to share, you might think about putting in for a proposal to present something at the conference. And I think now I'll turn it back to Richard.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Kisida and Dr. Pepper. Okay, so Renee, I think you're going to lead. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we're going to open it up to some questions.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kisida, Dr. Pepper, for that big announcement that everyone on this call gets to hear first. How exciting to have our first education conference in St. Louis. And Richard, thank you for sharing all of the layers of chess that the St. Louis Chess Club is involved in. So now we are going to open up to the audience. Since it's a pretty small number here tonight, we're going to keep the recording going and see if there are any questions among those of you who are in the audience. If you want to ask a question, you can unmute your microphone and ask a question directly of either Dr. Pepper, Dr. Kisida, or Richard.
I'll ask. I typed it into the chat, but I know lots of extracurricular activities, whether they're enrichment in class or after-school programs, have evidence that they improve student engagement, academic performance, things like that. Do we know that if chess had any different, better, worse effects than other activities that would be in that group?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we were always interested in the opportunity cost in terms of what was chess taking the place of. The short answer is that in the junior high model, there were a variety of other options: music, robotics, entrepreneurship was one. I think that's where you have to sort of go to your theory of action and think that perhaps there would be an association between some of those activities and the non-cognitive outcomes. But when you think about the structure of chess and how it is a mathematical way of thinking, then that association with math achievement, my intuition would be that that would not spill over into something like music or entrepreneurship. And similarly, in terms of the self-efficacy, the challenge that comes from chess. But there's a little bit of hand waving here. We did not, to answer your question directly, we did not explicitly test the impact of those other activities, except indirectly by saying.
Sure, but maybe there are other studies that had similar results as this one did, but for a different activity, and that's really kind of where I was going, I guess.
Yeah, and you could probably find some studies that show folks that go to music or choir that are really interested are more likely to attend school and be engaged. But I think the thing that chess is unique with is the mathematics achievement.
Okay, thank you, Jim, for your question. And Richard, we have a question from Randy. What might the initial steps be to get chess instruction into the regular school day in my school district?
Okay, so could have a couple different answers. One of the things that we found, there's many districts here in St. Louis. It's not just one large district. You often have to have somebody inside the district that is really excited about chess. So you saw in our video, Anthony Ruby was super excited about chess. And once we found him, he was able to make the kind of inroads into convincing other administrators that this is a possibility. And then you also have to tell them what they're getting. So why is chess important and what can you do? So one of the things that we found with some of our districts, they might have a shortage of teachers to cover certain periods during the day. There might be a library period where they need some planning times for their teachers. You're offering chess instruction during those times that can help them cover the number of periods they have. So students get chess, they get a planning period, and let's say that teacher's, in that library space as well, but it can help alleviate some of their problems. So we found that those were some of the best ways to kind of get started. And then to figure out what are the problems you're going to solve for them. That's really important, right? Because they want to know what they're getting for their students and how chess can really help them out.
Richard, we've also gotten a couple of questions about the curriculum that you shared during this webinar. You're going to make that available also to those who've attended this evening, correct?
Sure. So we have large plans for the curriculum. One was when we first did our seminar with Grandmaster Ashley and the doctors above, the idea was for us to have an internal training cohort that we can continually train around instructors, but also to offer it outside. So that would include the curriculum and also do a teacher training for those outside of the organization. Really the goal, currently there's an edit that's supposed to be done soon on the original curriculum to make it a little bit more polished. The idea is within the next year that we roll that out in some form or fashion that people could sign up and you get the curriculum and get the training as well. So we're going to share some of that with you. Absolutely.
Thank you, Richard. And then we have a question for Dr. Pepper and Dr. Kisida from Mark Indemar, who is the co-chair for the Chess and Education Committee. And he's wondering if there are opportunities for those of us running chess programs in schools across the country to contribute to your research.
I mean, absolutely. I think that, the research on chess instruction in schools is still really thin. So more is always needed. There was a few early studies, only a couple that used randomized designs that did find some impacts similar to ours. There's a study or two that have found impacts on math. Then there was a very famous study in London of also a randomized controlled trial that you all probably have at least passing familiarity with, which found nothing, which did lead to a few articles in the press saying, well, it looks like chess doesn't lead to improved school performance. But Interestingly, that study used a model similar to the elementary study that we used in our approach, which was chess instruction once a week for a total of about 15 lessons. And then once they factored in some implementation problems that they had in that study, students, I think, only received 12 or 13 lessons worth of chess. So I think that we're still trying to figure out what the right type of dosage is, what the type of approach is, what the type of curricular designs work for different types of populations. You're certainly welcome to reach out to us if there's opportunities to do interesting research in your programs, if that's what you were going for. You can email this group, or we can share our contact info in some way. Or if you're already doing research, then maybe it's something that you might think about presenting at the conference. I also wanted to follow up for a second, if I could, to Randy's question. One other thing, so I think Richard's exactly right, figuring out what is in it for the schools, being able to tell them how it will benefit their students. There is a real teacher shortage in the country, so a lot of the schools that they work with have holes to fill, and chess is one way that they can fill that. I think one third component that's important to remember that we've encountered is that really big school districts can be a little bit more difficult to work with, or at least it's a much bigger, cumbersome partnership to build versus smaller school districts that may have a little bit more autonomy. So in St. Louis, we've done the St. Louis Chess Club works with various school districts of all different sizes, but the ones that we've had the most success with have been some of the more smaller and nimbler ones. And that also includes some of the charter school networks and some of the inner city Catholic school networks who have more autonomy and maybe have different populations that are more interested in these alternative, sort of enrichment activities.
Thank you. And in the early studies that the results that you've shared, we have a question from Jim on how the result that it benefited male students. There are obviously more males playing chess than females. Is there some correlation in what you were finding in the school?
The way that I think there's two possible ways to look at that. One is, it is true that the population of students interested in chess and adults interested in chess does tend to be more male. So it could be that they just found it more interesting and received more of the benefits from it. I think there's another theory, though, which is that if there is, when it comes to the students that are, mostly struggling in a lot of these underserved schools. So, the Jennings Junior High that we're talking about, that's about a 99% African-American population. That's about 90% eligible for free and reduced lunch. And the most at-risk students in those schools tend to be the younger male students, both in terms of, sense of self-efficacy and disciplinary fractions. I mean, a lot of times when you're thinking about like, how do you move the needle? Sometimes as if the needle is starting from a lower threshold, there's more, low-hanging fruit and, to speak of in terms of something that can bring about improvement. So it could have something to do with that. Those are the students who tend to struggle the most in the current school environment, especially in the schools that they're working with in St. Louis.
And thank you, Dr. Kisida. And Dr. Pepper, with the preliminary announcement of the date of the Chess Education Conference in St. Louis, when do you expect to share other information about how proposals can be submitted and other information about registration?
I think in early December is when we will have a website set up and a press release. So look for that in early December.
And certainly US Chess will share that as well as well as the website that you will create for this particular conference. And so thank you. I know we're eagerly awaiting that announcement in further detail. I'm going to open it up for just another question. We've got about 5 more minutes. If anyone else in the audience has a question, speak now. Yes, Dwayne, go ahead.
Thank you. I started chess back in 1970, so I'm one of those old chess club members that I was solely my activities were in middle school. And so I just wondered how many of the members that are here now are either educators or retired educators, but equally of note is that has the research spent some time or been able to spend some time to sit down and talk to these instructors, especially those who are in the classroom, because they have a powerful influence on elevating young people to be involved in chess. I started this school year here last Wednesday, and at that time I had 24 students, but I also concentrated on how many girls were there. And we had 6 girls, and I was pleased with that because the interest or information I have, if I may share, is over the many, many years, I've noticed in the elementary schools that feed into my school and other elementary schools, almost 50% of attendance for chess clubs is female. And then when they get to middle school, that drops to about sometimes 15 to 20%. And in following it, which I have up through the high school level, I have noticed that there's like 1 or 2 girls who might be in the club. So I think there is a need to attempt to motivate, folks who are providing instruction to help the young ladies. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. We are finishing up our webinar. We want to thank our presenters again this evening. My name is Renee Bartlett. I'm Director of Operations. And if you have follow-up questions that you'd like me to direct to any of the presenters, my email address is on the Chess and Education webpage. Our next event is going to be on November 15th. We have a joint outreach session with the Chess and Education co-chairs and the Scholastic Council chair and vice chair. And so you can sign up on the Chess and Education webpage for that next webinar, and they will tell you what they plan on doing for the rest of this school year. And we had one final question from Laurel Aronian, I think, for our Dr. Pepper or Dr. Kisida. How many students were or in the program? I think that was for the research that you shared. Yes, it was for the research studies that you shared. How many students were in the program?
It depends. I mean, it depends. If you're talking about just the programs that Richard runs, they do, I don't know, maybe 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 students served per annually. In the study itself, in the elementary school model, we had quite a few more in the thousands. In the junior high model, the numbers in the low hundreds. I think we have about a sample size of 130 in the junior high model, just because it's one school. Typically 1 or 2 classes per semester, and those class sizes tend to be somewhere in the range of 15 students each.
Okay, thank you, Brian. And with that, I'm going to stop recording.